what we're going to speak about here is we're working currently on preservation work on the bottom quarter of the Withlacoochee River. And we kind of inadvertently backed into speaking about the Paradise Meadows RV park rezoning issue. It's not a shock that we have folks wanting to develop it because development has been encroaching closer and closer over time, but this is very unwelcome and very inappropriate, this Paradise Meadows RV park. Where we're located on the river, 5 miles above Dunnellon, Florida, on the Withlacoochee River, about 5 miles, give or take, below the Highway 200 crossing. Very natural, secluded, untouched piece of old Florida. I'll try and describe where it's at on the river in that the reason this section of the river is so isolated is because the Southwest Florida Water Management District has purchased a little over 6,000 acres with our tax dollars to prevent it from being developed, so it can serve as recharge area for the Withlacoochee River. I can't speak too much, but I have a pretty good idea that the Water Management District might be trying to increase their holdings. In fact, they've been actively increasing it, and I think there may be more in the hopper. I'm hoping so. But something has slipped through the cracks. On the Citrus County side of the Water Management District property, which we've invested a lot of tax dollars in protecting, a 40-acre parcel, 45-ish, was set aside and is proposed to be rezoned into a 350-unit RV park. Personally, I'm not against RV parks. I think that they have a purpose. They're very popular. I've seen a lot of them that seem to serve a good purpose. All along the Gulf Coast of Florida, all the way from Mexico Beach, Port St. Joe, Steinhatchee area, Horseshoe Beach, on down, as the places get wiped from hurricanes, the marketplace has taken action and is replacing a lot of those with RV parks. It's very sensible. Folks pull in very scenic areas that used to have old homes that were washed away, and they basically back in a RV home that can be evacuated whenever we have a hurricane warning. So there are appropriate places for an RV park. This ain't one of them. This is a site plan for the Paradise Meadows proposed RV park. It's currently suited for, I believe, 2 home sites. Every other home on that section of road and river are about 2 home sites per 40 acres. You know, I understand why the developers want to put 400 on it. I mean, there's better profit margin, but it's inappropriate in every other way other than profiting guys from South Florida that want our money. It's on a very narrow, winding road that follows the course of the river. So the road is a very dangerous road, and it always will be. The course of the river isn't changing. The path of that road isn't changing. It's always going to be a narrow, dangerous road. There's no fixing that. It's also on a wildlife corridor of the river. The wildlife travels up and down the corridor of the river. The river has a very wide floodplain, and for that reason, there's very few homes along the river. Most of the homes are on 20 to 40 acre parcels. There's enough room for a home close to the road, and the rest of it is floodplain that floods when the river is high. There will be issues within the county and the Water Management District to approach the zoning issues on that. And from folks I spoke with, I believe it's kind of a layup to be able to prevent this because it's so inappropriate. But we're creating this to help folks understand the river itself and where it's located and help them understand just how inappropriate and poorly located this would be if they choose to build it. Where we're at now, we are about 5 miles upstream from Dunnellon, midway between the Highway 200 bridge and the Highway 41 bridge, which are really the only 2 crossing points to the Withlacoochee River. This is one of the reasons this part of the river is still protected. This property in front of us is probably 1.5 to 2 miles from the closest paved road. The property in front of us is private property, pretty small portion of private property, about 20 acres or so. Around it is 6,000 acres of water management property. That's cool. The bass hitting the brim. I should be putting a top water plug on that rather than talking into my phone. The reason we're discussing this is today we're acting as the rapid response team to try and get in front of some permitting changes on this section of the river. I'm going to try and document what this is. This is actually land. I don't know if anyone alive knows this, if other than people that I've told to. This is actually highly modified land in 1925. Exactly 100 years ago today, the dragline was creating this canal. The dragline was taking the swampland and putting it up here to create a highland to build on. This was the downtown area for a 1920s land boom town. I don't know if I can capture it from here, but the chimney of the hotel for the town was right in these woods. And the developers were very wealthy developers that brought in people from St. Petersburg area and orange and blue Hudson limousines, chauffeur-driven limousines. They stayed in the hotel that was here, and they sold them lots for their town that was to be 6,000 acres. It was a very sophisticated operation. It was put to an end by the Great Depression and the developers broke. The reason we're telling this is because I'm preventing this from being developed. I bought part of the property, and the developers, the owners can't develop it without my permission because I own a bunch in the middle that they didn't know about. The reason I'm telling that is because preventing development from wealthy developers is not fun, and I live that. This is across the river from my house, and I stopped development here for a reason. This is from the Great Flood of 2024. A little bit of everything in there. You can see all the debris that's drifted up here over our head. We're trying to capture some of the elements of the Great Flood of 2024. These are 10, looks like perhaps Thompson's water seal. Not great. We'll just pretend like the lids are on them and they're still full. No way of knowing. I don't have opportunity to salvage today. We're on a different mission. Just an example of the flood as it recedes. Very peaceful out on the Withlacoochee River today. This is a place, at least in the past, to come and hear exactly this. Nothing but the wind in the trees. Occasional birds or squirrels, wildlife. So quiet. When the turtles roll off of that log, you'll be able to hear it. The water splash from across the river. We're trying to bring an example of just how peaceful this stretch of the river is. This is how peaceful it is. This is Saturday. This midday Saturday. It's gorgeous. It's a time when you would expect people on the river, and there will be, but not many. This is evidence of the flood of 2024. You can see the water here was actually not that high. The river is very wide here. That it would be over our head about 2 to 3 feet over where we're sitting in the kayak. Not a lot of vegetation. Everything was underwater. At springtime, things are just blooming out. But perhaps you can see here is an oasis, so to speak. And I've never really seen it post-flood when it was so obvious that the elements of oasis here. This is actually an unknown, unmapped. I doubt if anyone knows that there is a spring in here. It's a tiny spring. It generates a very low volume of water, but it's created its own spring run and its own plant community from the spring water of that tiny spring that's up in there. And I'm just trying to use that to document just how remote, how quiet and peaceful this section of the river is. That cypress stump in front is old growth cypress cut out in the 1890s, floated down to Dunnellon and put through the Hood Sawmill, which is in downtown Dunnellon. Here is an example of an old cypress, just by chance, comes into frame as we're drifting downstream. Judging by the size of the base, you can tell it's an older growth cypress. They're very rare. The reason the loggers did not drop the larger one in the back is it's messed up. It's rotten in the center, it's crooked, and for that reason they didn't drop it. It didn't have good wood. It wasn't worth the effort to chop it down. Well, that is an unexpected view. We're traveling down the Withlacoochee River through one of its most natural, unspoiled sections. We chose this spot because this is both the most natural and most endangered portion of the river. The dock, which is in view, but probably not overly visible, is somebody lost their dock in the Great Flood of 2024. That's a lot of dock that they lost. The entire thing has floated into that island. I don't know. I didn't know that was there. Wasn't there last time I was here. That's kind of some kind of strange metaphor that development is. Unfortunately, the purpose for this little mini documentary that we're creating is in the process of being rezoned into a 350 unit RV park. Not great. And so the dock that drifted up here is kind of a metaphor that development is coming. This, what we're looking at, is slated to be rezoned into a 350 unit RV park. It's miles from anything of substance. It's on a natural section of the river. I've spent so much of my life pushing back against both dishonest politicians and developers. I don't want to be doing this. And, well, it is what it is. We're going to view the site as it is now, and we're either going to use this documentary we're creating to show what was here or what we help keep natural. TBD.